Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcasts, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting guru Mark Zweig and his team of experts straight talk in your ear. Mark has more than 30 years of experience helping AEP and environmental firms thrive. And these podcasts deliver his invaluable management, industry, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter and the Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop professionally, wherever you are.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining Zweig Group Media and the Zweig Letter exclusive interview series. With over 25 years of continuous coverage of the design industry, the Zweig Letter is a consistent source of valuable information in an ever-changing marketplace. We are bringing you some of the best and brightest minds that our industry has to offer. Today, I'm pleased to welcome, I guess you're a recurring guest now.
I am.
You've been on this podcast a couple of times now, probably outside of myself and Mark Zweig. You've been on the most, but Sanjay Jenkins is here, and this is a special episode that we're going to be talking about millennials and Generation Y. And why am I talking about that? Well, because it's something that is on the tongues of every hiring manager out there in the design industry. It's on the tongues of every project leader and project manager, team leader, discipline leader, department manager that's looking to hire young people and trying to figure them out and understand what really makes them tick, whether they're an engineer or an architect or environmental consultant or planner. It doesn't matter what it is. The bottom line is trying to understand this group of young people it's something that it's worth the extra effort. And so today we wanted to probe the mind of a millennial. And this is going to be a chance for you to get a better understanding on how these millennials think, so to speak, and understand exactly what's going on in their minds. The thing about Sanjay, which is really great, is that Sanjay's been working here at Zweig for several months now, right?
Mm-hmm. Since January.
Okay, time flies.
It does.
And he came here under an internship, and now he has been offered a full-time job, and so he starts here full-time in a couple of weeks. So we're really excited about it because he's an extremely talented young man. But again, I think it's important to hear from his generation and understand what really makes them go. And so, Sanjay, today, this will be a chance for us just to talk and kind of hear. I mean, this is graduation week for you. I think you walked the plank you walked the stage on Saturday. And so that's a really big deal. And I know your parents are proud, and we're certainly proud to have you on the team here. But, talk to us about this whole millennial mindset. I know a lot of people are still trying to crack the code, if you will. But what are the things that are important to you? And I know a lot of engineers and architects and other people at the University of Arkansas. But tell me what your thoughts are about that.
I think the biggest thing common to my age group is that we want a reason to care. We care deeply about things we're personally passionate about. And whenever we approach the work environment, one of the first things that we all look for, and this is something that I've sort of extrapolated just from my conversations with my peers, is what is the company doing that gives us a reason to care? Like, it's not just like what's in it for me, but like, how can I help them achieve this greater vision? I mean, that's something that's really important to me personally. Like, I see the vision here at Zweig Group. I buy into it, and I see ways in which I can contribute. And I think that's what a lot of my peers are trying to do as well in their own respects, is they're trying to find ways to bring value to the communities that they're a part of and to the workplaces that they are in. I think culture. I think culture is definitely a big thing. You see, like, especially in Silicon Valley, you got ping pong tables and everyone's promoting this sort of like fun environment.
Right.
And there is, some importance to that. Like, you want to be in a place that you're comfortable in. But I think what's really great about those environments is not the ping pong tables and the free smoothies, but they have these overarching visions that they've got a very clear vision for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And if their vision aligns with what you see for the future, these employers will go out of their way to help you be a part of it. And I think that's what really sets like a great place to work for versus just a job.
Yeah, exactly. Where you're just kind of like an order taker filling a role. So yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that, it culture, like you said, culture is huge. And the recruiting space that I operate in, the first thing that we want to understand is the culture of a firm that we're recruiting for. Because if we can understand the culture, when we go out and look for individuals, we can talk to these people and find out really what makes them tick and try to make sure that we have a proper alignment from a cultural standpoint with a potential candidate. And a lot of firm owners out there need to be thinking that same way when it comes to, what does your culture say about you and your organization? And more importantly, how will people on the outside recognize it? Will it be recognized for being something that's harsh or that's ineffective, or will it be recognized as an environment that is nurturing, where real growth can happen? And based on what you're saying, it sounds like most millennials are looking for a nurturing environment where they can truly make a difference.
Agreed. Very much so. That's the thing. We want to make a difference. We want to contribute. I think there's this sort of misconception that millennials are lazy, entitled, that they don't care.
Right.
And that is, 100% not true. Everyone my age, we're all working really hard to try to achieve something. We have our own personal goals. We've got, we're trying to make our family proud. All of these things that we have, these things that we carry on our shoulders.
Right.
And we're hustling constantly. And maybe we were talking about earlier how, millennials spend like a full workday a month on Instagram itself.
Right. Yeah.
And that doesn't, really look like it's productive. It looks like we're wasting our time. Well, a lot of that time, some of us are building huge personal brands on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you got to factor those things in. And we're building our own communities, our networks. We're just doing it differently.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a problem with that. And I really wish that more people would appreciate that we're trying our best to contribute. We want a seat at the table. We want to add value to our communities. We want to make the people who have come before us proud,
Yeah.
whoever they may be.
Yeah. No. And you bring up a good point. I'm glad you mentioned the Instagram thing. It's, and I think it was precipitated by the fact that you walked in here with some Snapchat glasses, which, it's kind of like the Google Glass, but it's for Snapchat, and it records things in, I guess, 10-second increments or something along those lines. But you can almost kind of visually give people a representation of what your day is like, documenting exactly what's happening. And that's kind of where we are. I mean, not even 15, like 8 years ago, people would have looked at that like, what are you doing? Are you serious? Who has the time to do that? Now it's like, it's all the rage. I mean, those glasses couldn't even be had for a while. Yeah. And I know they had pop-up machines that were selling them, and then they would go away again. And now you can order them online.
That's correct.
Everybody and their mother is buying them in like turquoise, black, or red. Yeah. So the big shout out. You got the turquoise pair, which are really nice. But big shout out to Snapchat for, coming up with something that's a little different. It's not too terribly expensive, and it's something that, the masses can have access to. But that's kind of where we're headed.
Yeah.
And essentially, in a couple of years, engineers and architects will be able to go to a job site with a pair of glasses on like that and visually replicate what they've seen for anybody back at the office to oversee and look at, which I think is kind of cool. It sounds futuristic. It's already here.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is definitely happening. So we'll see how that, we'll see how that plays out. But back to the Instagram piece, I think it's important for firms that are listening to this and for leaders in the design industry space is to understand where the attention is. And it's not just millennials that are on Instagram like that. And so I think it's another untapped resource for brand awareness, for getting the word out about what your company is and what they do. I don't care whether you build bridges or buildings, or design landscapes, or work with the environment. There are multiple ways for you to get your message out to people and let them know that, oh my God, this company does X. And I don't know, I've seen them all over the place, and I saw them on Instagram, and my wife saw them on Instagram. And all of a sudden that you've got all this extra recognition that you didn't have before, because you're looking at multiple channels outside of the normal ones that you've utilized in the past, like the yellow pages and, maybe a banner ad on a certain website, or I don't know, your own personal website, whatever it is, there are a lot of different ways to get the message out now. And I think we need to be really mindful of that. And I think millennials are making us aware, back to the topic of what we're focusing on, are making us aware that is more than one way to skin a cat. And there's more than one way to interact with people. And millennials have kind of forced the issue in a number of areas, especially communication. Yeah. Right? I mean, when you think of it, it's like it's so much easier now for certain millennials. You just text them. They don't even want to be bothered with an email. So for those of us that are out there emailing people left and right, I've said time and time again that email is on its deathbed. And I think that, there's going to be a different medium that's going to capture people's attention. And we're seeing that now, obviously, with YouTube, with Snapchat, those instant videos, and, with just being able to give people a glimpse of information. And I think I was reading somewhere where the average attention span of an adult is less than 5 minutes. So you don't have that much time to begin with to make your point about your brand or about why your company is more special than anybody else and why you do X, Y, and Z. You've got to kind of get in and get out. And I think millennials definitely understand that and appreciate it, and certainly gravitate towards the things that speak to them in a language that they understand.
I think, and part of it's just we grew up with it. It's just something that we've almost always known. It just depends on where you are in the millennial gap. I've never really been able to solidify exactly what the age range is.
I know. We could actually have a whole nother session on that in terms of the different age ranges and what generation you fall under versus what generation I fall under. And right now we've got the greatest generation. That's the generation that was around during World War II, and then of course they spawned the baby boomers. And then the baby boomers after that, I guess you have Generation X, which I'm a part of. And now you've got this whole Generation Y, and then I guess there's Generation Z, which is coming up, which are kids that are born 2004 and later. Yeah, those are like my kids that are born with like a chip in their brain and can, they can modify and do things on your iPad that you could only dream of doing. And so for some of you listening, whether it's your kids or your grandkids, are able to take some of the technology that you fuddle around with and do wonders with it. I mean, that's just where things are going right now. And I think we need to be mindful of that. Yeah, absolutely. So, that's just kind of where it is. So tell me, I mean, you talk obviously with all your peers and why don't you just give us some additional insights into the thinking of the average millennial coming out of college today. And honestly, what were you thinking 6 months ago, 12 months ago, before you fully are about to enter the workforce versus what you're thinking now? And what are you anticipating things to be like in the next 6 to 12 months? Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk about what my peers are thinking about, just because I've been having a lot of these conversations lately. You can sort of categorize them into two groups: people who have some sort of certainty of the future, and the people who are not. Right. And both groups. Which group is bigger? To be honest, the uncertain group. Okay. I think so. At least, and I think a lot of that is like just sort of like my own network bias. Well, this is just so everybody knows, this is an unscientific study by Sanjay. This is not backed by MIT or anything like that. No. But sometimes anecdotal evidence like this is really helpful. So with the uncertain group, I think you've got some level of political uncertainty. There's the will I have a job? I'm actually graduating a year earlier than a lot of my peers. So I'm 21 right now, and the classmates that I graduated with in high school, they still have another year to go in college for the standard 4-year degree. Okay. So for them, they still have a degree of uncertainty. They're still like
trying to figure out what they want to do, where they want to be. But they don't know if those jobs are going to be there once they graduate.
Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of weird in that I've always, or not always, but in recent history, I've been very proactive. Like I haven't waited for a job to pop up. I'll do everything I can to make that opportunity. So 6 months ago, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing once I graduated. I didn't know if I was going to, get a job somewhere, if I was going to start my own thing. Turns out I'm doing both,
right?
Which is always cool,
right?
And that was the same sort of stance I was at 12 months ago as well. And I think the biggest thing is, like, for me and some of my friends who are in the certain category, we have the self-awareness to know, okay, look, we have these skills. This is what we can do. This is what we're good at. And we are going to try our hardest to utilize them and make our opportunities ourselves.
Right.
And I do surround myself with a lot of people like that. Those are usually the people that I work with on a lot of my projects outside of Zweig Group.
Right.
And those folks, we all recognize the uncertainty in our external environment, whether it be political or, just social, whatever the case may be. We recognize it and we try to navigate it the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
I think, going back to it, we all just want a reason to care about something.
Yeah.
And this, we're all just trying to figure out what we can care about.
Okay. So there is that birds of a feather situation. So you end up around a lot of like-minded people that think the same way that you do and operate the same way that you do. And you mentioned something interesting, which is, everybody's got like what we now call side hustles or side gigs, or, we're moving into this gig economy that everybody's talking about. Well, what does that mean? I mean, you've got people that are working 9-to-5 jobs that also do Uber at night. And, not to say that there are a lot of engineers or architects that have time for that, but I think it's important to understand that, there was a time when you'd join a firm and that firms had a no moonlighting policy. You couldn't work. I remember the first time actually at Zweig Group, we used to have a no moonlighting policy. And when I first took my job back in the 90s here at Zweig, at the time we were Zweig White and Associates, when we signed our offer letter, it said very directly that, you weren't allowed to do that. That was, we want your focus to be right here. How do you reconcile that in this day and age? Is it that things are just moving at a much faster clip? Is it that the technology is such that it affords individuals an opportunity to stay hyper-focused in a job environment and still do something on the side? Or, what are your thoughts about that? I mean, I have my thoughts, but what are your thoughts about that?
No, I definitely think technology definitely helps us do this. That's the biggest tool that helps us, that helps me sort of keep things separate, but still have both these things running.
Yeah.
When I'm at Zweig Group, things do come across my desk, do come across my phone. I do get text messages and phone calls about some of my other projects, but I'm still hustling on Zweig Group.
Right.
When I'm here, and even, I'm an intern now, but I definitely spend a lot of time.
Not for long.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I can say that for like one more day.
Right. And then we got you.
And then, so I don't know, maybe things change all of a sudden. Who knows? No, I think, but what I was trying to say is, like, now, I spend my time while I'm in the office focused on building the things we need to build for Zweig Group. I spend a lot of time outside of the office, even as an intern. I know I've talked to some of my friends who have had internships and they were discouraged. Like, their bosses actually said, don't work on this outside of.
Right.
I find a lot of value. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can do that we're doing. I mean, I think it's fun. And I think that the difference is, like, I've bought in, I care. I've been given reasons here to care. And I do care deeply about this company. And, I spend a lot of time working on it, but technology affords me the ability to spend this time here working on Zweig Group things, and knowing that when it's time for me to work on my other projects, I can jump right in. A lot of my processes I've automated, or at the very least, I've set up to where they're simple button pushes. I used to run Boxy. I actually just recently sold that company. I used to run that do a lot of the marketing work for it during my lunch break. From Zweig Group. So that, and then I think it's technology, and the biggest thing is self-awareness and being able to like balance the things that I have going on. Just like being able to prioritize efficiently and say, okay, well, this is when I just have to work on these things, and this is when I have to work on these things, and being able to sort of, when I see a dog on the street, I'm always like, oh, whoa, dog.
Right.
Like really, the attention span is kind of short with me, to be honest. But when I need to get work done, I get work done, and I attribute that to my just sort of like ability to know like this just needs to happen.
Yeah. And you find a lot of your peers share that sentiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially those that are successful. Mm-hmm. Anybody that's graduating college, in 3 years. I mean, that's always helpful, I think. So, you bring up a good point with regard to, just this whole issue of moonlighting, which I think is interesting. Technology and self-awareness. I think honestly that some of the things that I've seen in terms of stuff that if I've ever done anything on the side, which I haven't done since I came back to Zweig Group, but doing things on the side has kind of helped me be better in my primary focus. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like some of the things that you've picked up on the side, you've been able to bring back here and apply. And I know absolutely. In what you're doing with social media and mm-hmm. some of the marketing and e-commerce stuff that you're about to work on, you've had some experience, and you're leveraging that experience in this place. And it's not so much that, doing that cheats out whatever other endeavor you have. It's just that one enhances the other and mm-hmm. vice versa in some instances. Oh,
absolutely. So, that's actually a really perfect example. So Boxy, e-commerce, that's really when I got my feet wet with e-commerce, and now I'm coming in and I will be working extensively with the e-commerce department here. That's one of my main job roles. Again, with the marketing piece, that's what I ran for Boxy. It's what I'm doing here a lot, and I just can keep growing. Like I don't stop growing at any point in time, right. Because I just continue to work on these things. They're just aligned differently to slightly different visions. That's the only difference.
Yeah. And I think the important distinction to make here, the point simply is that, for those of you listening in the design space, if you've got individuals that are working on other things outside of the job, my encouragement would simply be is to help them find the areas of compatibility or, the areas of overlap.
Yeah.
And, maybe something that they're doing on the side has a practical aspect within the confines of your organization, and figure out how you can kind of help those two things coexist, mm-hmm. Which I think is important. But I do see in the next 5 to 10 years, well, not even 3 to 5 years, that firms are certainly going to have to be much more flexible as it pertains to that. And then we'll see what happens with this whole millennial mindset, if mm-hmm. you will. And see how that continues to expand. The thing that I see mostly out of millennials is that you just process things faster, and sometimes even faster than maybe your subordinate. I mean, maybe more than your direct reports do. And sometimes that can be frustrating. And how do you overcome that, right? Because you're saying one thing, and your direct report is saying, the person that you directly report to is saying something else, or they're misunderstanding you, or there's no simpatico arrangement there. And so it's kind of frustrating. So you've got to, I think one thing that I would encourage those in leadership or management positions in the design space is to be patient about the understanding aspect of where some of these young people are, millennials like Sanjay and others, because I think that you've got to kind of understand how they do things and the way in which they do things, and kind of make it work within the confines of your organization, within the cultural makeup of your firm. All of these things is stuff to consider. Mm-hmm. And we can't just blindly say, oh, I've got to go hire out these young people. I'm going to bring them in, and we're going to convert them into, well, you can't really convert these individuals this way. I think what you have to do is help them buy into your culture, first mm-hmm. of all. And then secondly, give them some freedom and space to kind of flex themselves and understand exactly what's going on, how they need to do their role, make sure that it's very clear, and give them some kind of space so that they can then maybe figure out different ways to interpret the role that you gave them. not so much that it's so far outside of the realm of what you've asked them to do, right? I mean, you're just not going to do that with a designer. I mean, a designer is going to come in and design stuff, and you're not going to then have him meeting with clients right off the back. I mean, that just doesn't happen. They've got to spend some time in front of a computer. They've got to spend some time modeling and putting things together, so that you do have a viable product, a viable project to present to a client. And so it takes time for that. We're not suggesting that you jump several steps, but be mindful of where those individuals are in their progress. And when they show progress and the ability to kind of leverage their understanding of technology, their understanding of maybe figuring out a way to skip a step or two and still get the same objective, you figure out a way to help them enhance that and continue to refine those efforts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the minute that you start saying that's not the way that we do things, or that's not the way that we used to do them, then you've kind of lost. You've got to be flexible and amenable to change, especially from a management perspective,
Mm-hmm.
with the young people coming out of school like yourself. So, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
No, I completely agree. I very much do. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I think you covered it, Randy.
Okay. Oh, that's perfect. Well, I mean, again, I just thought it would be something to talk about. And part of what we're trying to do here with the Zweig Letter podcast is just to bring awareness in different areas or aspects of our business in the design space, and exactly what's going on, and how people can, kind of position themselves for greater success. One of the things that we talked about doing that we are going to do very soon is that we're going to have a roundtable discussion with some young engineers and architects, so that our listening audience can understand exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
With these young people and what their thought process is. And, some of these, I know some people, and there's some other people in the office that are familiar with some young people coming out of school, just to kind of pick their brains and see what their thought process is around the design industry space, and, what they're hoping to accomplish in the next couple of years. I think it'll be interesting to see and hear from them in terms of their expectations. Because again, a lot of times we move forward with the idea that we've got everything figured out and it's all within our grasp. But the reality is that this world is constantly changing on a daily basis. And I think we need to be mindful of that and understand, what it means to kind of be progressive and on the cutting edge of that change and not be run over by it, right? Because a lot of firms could be run over by that. And we run into that all the time with firms that are just stuck in the 90s or stuck in the 80s in the way they operate. And they can't attract young people like yourself that are smart and intelligent and, fast moving and quick thinking and always willing to try something new. They can't succeed with those kind of individuals because they don't create a fertile ground
right.
or a place for opportunity for that to really grow.
Right.
And that's what I think is that's the difference. And so firms need to be intentionally thinking about, how do I make my company a fertile ground and a place where these young people can come in and thrive, and they don't feel like they're being throttled, that they're being held back. Or that they're being slowed down. I mean, granted, there is some place for that within certain roles, within certain disciplines within the design space. But overall, we need to be flexible to give these young people some space so that they can really, spread their wings a little bit. And obviously, they need to learn the foundational things. They need to learn the basics and the fundamentals of engineering, the fundamentals of architecture, and the fundamentals of design. But we need to be really flexible about, giving these young people some space so that they can kind of test the waters, so to speak, and understand it without killing anybody. We're not suggesting that.
No.
We don't need any young designers going out and designing bridges without fully understanding the ramifications of what a true, proper horizontal structure is supposed to, how it's supposed to be designed and built. But what we're talking about is giving these young people a chance to really kind of show you what they know and incorporate that within the confines of how you run your organization. So
I think that's really important. I think, the attraction, creating that fertile ground. If design firms really focus on creating an environment and branding and like telling their story of this environment where, anyone, regardless of age,
right,
can go and flourish.
Yeah.
People are going to be lining, up to work there.
Yeah.
And that changes the game, I think, in the design industry. If you have people just like eager to work, I mean, you're going to do some amazing work.
Yeah. No, that goes without saying. So, man, we could go on and on and on about this. I think, again, the idea that we have for this roundtable discussion with a few other people is going to be really helpful for our listening audience. Mm-hmm. And we'd certainly like to hear from you as well about some of the topics that we've covered in the recent past. We've had a chance to talk about, life hacks. We're going to do another life hack series episode really soon. We're going to talk about some of the health hacks to bring yourself forward and to take advantage of some of the technology that's out there and some of the brews and all kinds of elixirs that can help you be more successful. I'm speaking of bulletproof coffee specifically, among other things, and we will talk more about that in the future. But we'll certainly spend some more time on that. And Sanjay will be more of a fixture here on the podcast, and he will certainly be able to give his 2 cents and be a foil to what I'm doing and to what we're doing here at Zweig Group to continue to open up the dialogue. If you've got something that you want to hear specifically about, you can always email us. All of our information can be found in the show notes. And so we certainly want to encourage you to interact with us here as often as possible on the Zweig Letter Podcast. As a reminder, all Zweig Group media programs like this one are available usually in podcast format, always, and then video format sometimes, free for download. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just to name a few places. We'd like to thank you for listening to the podcast by offering you a free copy of the Zweig Letter and, there's an and, a free subscription to Civil Plus Structural Engineer magazine. You've heard it here first. A 1-year subscription to Civil Plus Structural Engineer magazine. Just visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com and we will take care of everything for you. A link to all of this information, including contact information for our guests, will be in our show notes. I don't know if I can even call you a guest anymore, Sanjay, but anyway, you'll get Sanjay's information in there as well as mine. Reach out to us anytime. And we'd love it if you go to iTunes or wherever you tune into this show and give us a rating. 5-star preferably, but if not, 4 is good too. If we suck, let us know about that as well. We just want to hear the feedback is important. And please share a link to this podcast with one of your friends. I'm Randy Wilburn. I was joined today by Sanjay Jenkins, and you've been listening to Zweig Group Media, part of Zweig Group. Remember, we exist to make you more successful. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter Podcast. We hope that you can apply the Zweig team's no-holds-barred advice to your daily professional life. For a free 6-week subscription to the Zweig Letter, please visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com to gain more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about leadership, finance, HR, and marketing your firm. Subscribe today.